Hello to you. As I was preparing this report for Las Vistas Board of Directors, I was wondering what was going to be the best way to portray all the information. And because a lot of the information is very graphic in nature, I figured that the best way was going to be in a graphic way. And thus I'm going to present to you a slide of pictures, because I think it's really the best and most efficient way to get these over with. Along with this report, you're going to be getting another file, a separate file, or separate files that have information from the insurance agency, and which contain all the details towards the compensations that the agency is going to be making towards Las Vistas. So without any further delay, let us see how we have been able to positively overcome this earthquake and get a lot done despite not having any funding. So let us check it out. You will remember that there was a lot of cracks and fissures that happened in the buildings right after the earthquake. And although most of these had to do or were more visible in Building 3, other buildings also presented them. There was quite a bit of material that became loose, and there was quite a bit to do. We did come to learn that even though Building 3 was where they were more visible, basically the exact same damage happened in the other buildings also, except that it was more in an underlying way and was not as visible, but yet at the end will probably require about the same amount of work. So here, for example, you've been seeing slides of pictures from Building 3, and this is another one. This is the A side of Building 3, looking on down from the upper floor. And as far as other buildings, you might remember the pergolas, which were accepted by the insurance agency as having become more of a risk after the earthquake. Well, you can see there the angle of how that was getting ready to fall. There was the fissures that happened also not just in the central walls, but towards the emergency stairwells, and in different little areas that showed where these junction movements opened up, and they showed up as cracks or as stucco and facade that fell off. Okay, so starting to look into the work that was being done, not just on the outside of the building and in the stairways of the buildings, and in the connection points towards the exit doors where there was a lot of damage also. We're going to be able to see all the work that was done. You might remember that after the initial earthquake, there was a succession of aftershocks that happened throughout the following days. And it was not until after these aftershocks that we came to learn and notice that there was some other damages that we initially had not been aware of. And a lot of this had to do with the parapets that are on the buildings 1 and building 3. So these kind of cracked at the very base, and because of this crack, they became an element that can move very freely, particularly the ones on the parking lot side. However, those on the other side of the garden, the side of the garden, also were able to show some damage where they connect. With a zooming lens, we were able to see some of this damage standing at the balconies of other units, but it wasn't until we went up on the roofs, where it was a rather uncomfortable to get up on top of and moving things around, that we were able to see the hidden part. A lot of it having to do with water, where the water is channeled and with different junction points. And this, because we were in the midst of the rainy season and towards the peak of the rainy season, that allowed water to come in at different points and just give a little bit of trouble. So that kept us kind of busy also working on that. Just making sure that we were able to seal all the different parts where water could come down into the buildings. A few extremely difficult to reach and very hard to work on areas where you couldn't even stand, and we had to fix the flashing, gave us a little bit more trouble. Nonetheless, we were able to, with the use of harnesses, we were able to get to those spots and work them, and they are now solved. A third aftershock, about a week after the main earthquake, allowed us to see some other areas that were affected. In this case, this is in Building 2. This here is in Building 1, and we were able to see a few things that had not been visible after the first and the main earthquake. nonetheless, this case at the stairwell on building 3, A side, nonetheless, once they became apparent, we were able to later on work on them also. A few weeks after the main earthquake, because of the rainy nature of these months, we started noticing that there was water filtering through the roofs. The roofs of the emergency stairs, this is, and we believe the flashing seal went bad, and this is what allowed for this water to start seeping through and becoming worse. It seems like there was a little bit going on previously, but nonetheless it just worsened as after the earthquake. Same results, just repeating themselves at different spots. Okay, so the first thing we did once we got the scaffolding in was go to work with those elements that were the most dangerous, in this case the pergolas at building 2. And we were able to go right to work, get them out of there, get them out, and because once you remove the pergolas, the anchoring system, which had also failed because of the earthquake, we had to clean that out and fix the wall, the base, seal it, and do all the work so that it would become pretty much unnoticeable. I guess since we took that down, it really doesn't seem like anyone is missing those pergolas, and it seems like we can just forget that they were there and be thankful that the insurance agency covered it. It was sort of a pre-existing situation there, but the earthquake worsened it. But now it's finished, and seems like everyone is happy, including the owners of those units. Immediately after, we jumped on to building 3 to start working there because we were concerned that the rain could start coming in through these junction points, these movement points, and wanting to prevent that, we went to work immediately on it, and with the scaffolding and harnessed people and a crew that kept growing in number, we were able to deal with all the situation. And at this point in time, all of that has been fixed. You can see in the picture here where it's on the base coat, we're just lacking the finishing coat, but it already is looking a lot different. Definitely different from a worrisome look to a natural look that pleases. In similar fashion, the concerning looks of side A of building 3 definitely have a more pleasing look now that it's being worked on. The problem areas at the rooftops and the ridges have also had those ridges that used to be exposed cracked because of the movement, now are sealed and are not leaking, I am happy to report. And by now the enormous majority of the junction point problem areas on building 3 that had to do with the rooftops are now solved. Some elements that will be giving us a considerable amount of work are the parapets in building 3 and building 1, which we have started already to trim off, so to speak. We're just going to have to demolish them little by little because they weigh a lot. They are made of pure concrete, but for some reason, just being a one-face element, they did not have any support in back, so they vibrated and broke loose, as you saw in the initial pictures. And therefore, with the scaffolding on top of the roof, because they're just extremely high, too high, we've been able to reach them and start cutting them down and breaking them down in chunks. And in order to not move all that enormous amount of weight over the roofs and in through the inside of the buildings, what we're doing is we're transporting them on down in an aerial way. So just so you have an idea, you might be able to see towards the middle of the picture a bucket. That's just a bucket that we're showing how we move all the debris and all those breakovers, moving them from the very highest point of the buildings on down to the parking lot without interrupting anything inside the building, and in as clean a form as possible. And speaking of cleanness, we've been able to keep all the surroundings of the buildings very, very clean. It really doesn't look like there's been that amount of work, that great amount of work being done. At the end of the day, everybody knows that they have to dedicate half an hour to clean up, to just sweep, to even through the plants in the garden. And the normal area where we collect what has to be picked up off through the day doesn't build up that much, and we're just constantly keeping it clean, so that we've had some very positive comments regarding that. The emergency staircases have been pretty much completed for building 3 and are being quite advanced in buildings 1 and 2. You do remember how ugly they looked. Just very terrible. But now they are looking very nice and very fine, cleaned up and nicely painted, and with all the stucco fixed and all the mortar and all the expansion joints, some of which you don't see here, but that's part of the purpose, that you don't, and it's just good that they are finished and well done, including some expansion joints that we placed underneath the ramps that have the stairs. And if we close up on them, it's very, very hard to see, but there's an expansion joint included in there so that if there's any future earthquakes, there's nothing that we have to worry about, unless it gets a lot stronger than the initial one. So as we continue working through buildings 2 and building 1, dealing with all the things that have to do with the expansion joints underneath the stairs, with all the slots that have to be cut, with all the cleaning of elements that have to be separated, which weren't for some reason in the past separated, and after fixing and redoing all the areas adjacent to the expansion joints, and like as here shown, already primed and with the first coat of elastomeric sealer, we hope that we will be catching up buildings 1 and 2 with building 3. Just restoring everything so that it continues to look nicely as the glory of Las Vistas has always had. And the work will continue going on with building 1. It has been quite advanced with building 3. And as in building 2, where quite a substantial amount of work has been finished already. We will continue having our crew members working hard, and despite how dangerous or how complicated it may seem to work in certain areas, just bringing back all that majesty that Las Vistas has always had, and going on with the next step, which will be working on the inside of the units and bringing the former glory to those too. So we will keep you updated on all the happenings at Las Vistas here at Nativa Resort. Still with a considerable amount of work to complete, but far ahead from where we were. Thank you very much for listening. This is Jimmy Buttman reporting from NCPA.